Let me ask you something you've probably felt, but maybe never said out loud. Why does it feel like buying a home today is almost impossible when our parents did it on regular incomes in their 20s with far fewer degrees and far less stress? Most people assume it's their fault. Bad choices, not saving enough, not working hard enough, not cutting back on takeaway coffees, but none of that explains what's actually happening. Because the truth, the real hidden truth, is this. Homes didn't just get more expensive. Homes fundamentally changed what they are. They stopped being a basic necessity and became an investment class, then a financial asset, and now, in many parts of the world, a global wealth vault. When the purpose of something changes, the price changes with it. And when millions of people start treating shelter like a speculative asset, prices detach from incomes, outpace wages, and create a system where entire generations feel locked out. Today, we're going to break down the 8 hidden forces that quietly reshaped the global housing market into something completely different from what earlier generations dealt with. These forces explain everything: why prices are so high, why down payments feel impossible, why cities are unaffordable, why you feel behind, and most importantly, why none of this is your fault. Let's decode the system. For most of human history, you bought a house because you needed somewhere to live. Simple, practical, boring. Housing was a consumed good, like food or clothing. You didn't buy a home expecting to retire off it. You bought it because it rained outside. But somewhere between the 1980s and early 2000s, something shifted. Housing started outperforming. Stocks, bonds, cash savings, and sometimes even business ownership. It became a retirement plan, a tax-advantage wealth vehicle, a hedge against inflation, the main way to make it financially, and quietly, a status symbol. When something becomes an investment, it stops being priced on usefulness and starts being priced on desirability. People weren't buying homes to live in, they were buying appreciation. And when you buy something for appreciation, you do not care about the fundamentals. You do not care about the local wage. You do not care about the average income. You care about growth. The moment housing became an investment class, it stopped following the logic of necessity markets and started following the logic of financial markets. That single shift explains almost everything else you're about to hear. People like to say, governments want affordable housing. They don't, not really. Governments want happy homeowners, stable property taxes, rising land values, and voters who feel wealthier. And in almost every democracy, homeowners are the biggest voting bloc. So governments, often without meaning to, built a system that rewards rising prices, mortgage interest deductions, negative gearing, capital gains, tax discounts, tax-free gains on the family home, zoning rules that restrict density, first home buyer grants that raise prices, political incentives to protect home equity above all else. Here's the irony. Most affordability policies increase prices. Give buyers more money, they bid more, sellers get more. Prices rise, mortgage sizes rise, banks win, governments win, buyers lose. This is why 90% of global cities are now officially unaffordable. This isn't bad budgeting. This isn't generational weakness. This is the outcome of policy design. A system built to protect homeowner wealth will never prioritize affordability for those trying to get in. When interest rates crashed in the 2010s, and then again during the 2020 pandemic, the entire housing market rewired itself. Suddenly, borrowing was cheap. Debt was abundant. Mortgages felt manageable, and people bought houses based on repayments, not price. This is the hidden mechanism behind the insane price rises of the last decade. People stopped asking, how much is the house? They asked, how much is the monthly payment? When money becomes cheap, assets become expensive. It's the iron law of financial markets. That's why OECD real house prices rose over 40% in the last decade, along with countries like Canada, New Zealand, and Iceland, skyrocketing over 75% between 2010 and 2022. This wasn't irrational. This was the invisible math of low interest rates. And now we're entering the painful part of the cycle. In the UK, surveyors are downvaluing homes by 5 to 15% sometimes even more, because lenders don't believe the agreed sale price reflects a real value. Deals are collapsing, buyers are forced to cover shortfalls, sellers are losing buyers overnight, and the bank is the one deciding what a house is worth. This isn't a buyer's market or a seller's market, it's a lender's market. And when lenders get nervous, the entire system shakes. People love to say, just build more houses. But supply isn't just about construction. It's about zoning, infrastructure land release, developer incentives, migration trends, labour shortages, environmental approvals, build-to-rent delays, and the type of housing built. For example, Australia, New Zealand, and the US build some of the largest homes in the world, over 2,100 square feet on average. Meanwhile, the UK, where land is scarce and prices extreme, now averages 818 square feet for new homes. And in many African and Latin American cities, 20 to 50% of people live in informal settlements with little access to adequate services. The world has 2.3 billion houses, but 3 billion people will need new or improved housing by 2030. That means we need to build 96,000 new affordable homes every single day. We're nowhere close. But here's the kicker. Even where supply has increased, prices still rise because prices aren't set by supply and demand anymore. They're set by investment logic. Supply helps, but it can't fix a market that no longer prices shelter like shelter. If this feels like it's finally making sense, and if you want more videos that break down the hidden systems shaping your money, your choices, and your future, hit subscribe. It helps the channel reach more people looking for real clarity in a messy world. Let's keep going. Here's a force barely anyone talks about. In a globalized world, money moves fast and it looks for safety. So investors from across the world park wealth in countries with stable governments, strong property rights, good legal protections, currency, diversification, opportunities, privacy, tax advantages. Cities like Sydney, Melbourne, Vancouver, London, New York, Hong Kong. LA became global wealth vaults. Sometimes the buyer never lives there. Sometimes no one lives there, ever. The apartment is the asset. The asset is the point. This is why demand is global, while supply is local. The local income of a Sydney teacher or London nurse is irrelevant. They're not bidding against local wages. They're bidding against global capital, and global capital wins every time. This is the part most people feel but can't explain. We no longer live in a wage economy. We live in an asset economy. In an asset economy, wages barely move. Assets grow exponentially. Wealth compounds, and the biggest gains go to those who already own assets. Today, in Portugal, the house price to income index sits around 150. In Canada, 137. In the US, 130. 2015 equals 100 baseline. These ratios used to be around 70 to 90. At the same time, wages in many countries rose only a tiny fraction of that. This is why homeownership went from 3 times annual income, 10 times, 15 times, 20 times in some markets. This isn't generational laziness. This is exponential math. The Matthew effect becomes brutally real. To those who have, more will be given. To those who don't, even what they have slips further away. This is the psychological force. It's described, and it's huge. For decades, we've been told, renting is dead money. Real adults own homes. You're falling behind. Buy as soon as you can. It's the most important financial decision of your life. This creates guilt, panic, FOMO, pushing pressure, shame, and emotional bidding wars. When homeownership becomes a marker of adulthood, demand becomes infinite, and infinite demand will always crush finite supply. This is why even in declining markets, prices don't fall far or fast. The cultural pressure holds the floor. People will stretch, overpay, take on risk, borrow more, and sacrifice quality of life to avoid feeling like they're failing at adulthood. This is not a housing market. This is a psychology market. This is one of the most powerful and least discussed forces. Over the last decade, Institutional investors have entered the housing market. REITs pension funds, private equity, mega landlords, global funds, build-to-rent operators. These players don't buy one home. They buy hundreds, thousands, or entire neighborhoods. They don't care about school zones or commutes or cracked tiles. They care about yield, cash flow, tax strategy, inflation hedging, diversification, long-term passive income. And here's the twist. A regular person buys a house with emotion. An institution buys with an Excel sheet. You can't compete with that. Institutions can pay above asking, can outbid locals. Don't feel fear. Play the long game. Get better mortgage rates, use debt as leverage, and treat housing like a perpetual income machine. This force is exploding in the US, but spreading globally, and it turns neighborhood level housing into a corporate asset class. When corporations buy homes, homes behave like corporate assets, and corporate assets are priced for yield, not affordability. This is one of the biggest forces reshaping the future of cities. This is one of the easiest myths to debunk, because even if you saved every spare cent for a decade, you still wouldn't catch up with asset price growth in most global cities. Housing didn't become unaffordable because people bought brunch. It became unaffordable because we financialized shelter. This is not a budgeting problem. This is a structural redesign of the entire economic logic of housing. Here it is, the thesis of the entire video. Housing is no longer priced as shelter. It's priced as an investment. And investment assets follow financial logic, not human logic. Once homes became assets, leverage tools, retirement plans, global vaults, and corporate income machines, the market stopped caring about wages, fairness, or local affordability. It cares about tax incentives, global capital flows, monetary policy, institutional demand, compounding wealth, investment psychology. When the purpose of something changes, the rules that govern it change too. Housing no longer operates like a market for shelter. It operates like a market for financial assets. And you're competing in a game that no individual, no matter how disciplined or was ever meant to win alone. If this is giving you clarity, if it's helping you see the system for what it really is, subscribe. Not because it helps the algorithm, but because it helps build a community of people who want to understand the forces shaping their lives, instead of being shaped by them. Let's finish strong. You're not behind, you're not irresponsible, you're not financially illiterate, you're not bad with money. You're living in a world where the goalposts moved farther than any generation before you, a world where supply can't keep up, wages don't match asset prices, institutions outbid individuals, governments reward rising values, global capital flows, rewrite local affordability. And homes are no longer shelter, but financial instruments in a globalized system. The housing crisis is not a reflection of your ability. It's a reflection of the system's design. But knowing this doesn't make you powerless. It makes you prepared. Because once you understand the system, you can start playing your own game. Your strategy might be investing instead of buying, renting, long-term co-buying with friends, building a larger income base, house hacking, or choosing a different path entirely. There is no one correct playbook. There is only the one that works for you. The real goal isn't owning a house. The real goal is owning your future. Stay smart, stay curious, play your own game. Let's decode the system together.